Well, welcome my felting friends to this week's video. I hope you enjoyed the introduction. That's the actual picture we're going to be making, but slightly less animated. So here we are. If you want the drawing, it's in the description box below, and we'll get on with this. So what I'm doing here is I'm mixing some yellow, you can see the two colours, a yellow and an orange together, because we're going to have quite an orange sky. So we're going to start off with quite orange here, and then it'll spread out across the sky and get a little browner as we go. I'm mainly using carded wool for this, so you can definitely do this. You don't need the topsail roving, anything like that. So I'm going to put this in around the sun. I'm not going to go right over the sun because I want to know where it is, so I can go and fill that in a bit later on. And the same with the raven. I will go over bits of him, but I won't go over all of him, so I know where to place him back later on. So here I've got that same orange colour, and I've added some brown to it now, so you can see it's just slightly darker. So we're going to use that now and spread that out further across the sky. I don't want to go right over the orange I've put down originally. I just want it to sort of blend together and then spread out from there. I'm laying it down relatively thinly, but obviously I need to make sure I'm covering the felt that I'm working onto here. But it's nice because carded wool felts really easily. So I'm just basically going to put it fairly well all over, you'll see what I mean, and then I want to take the orange down the bird as well, because the bird's going to be more or less like a blue-black colour, and that will set off nicely against the orange here. But again, I'm just doing it roughly really at the moment. Can't believe we're in October. I'll be buying Christmas presents in a minute. Mind you, I do like October, it's my birthday month, so I was supposed to have been born on Halloween, but I decided to arrive a little earlier. But I always think that's quite funny that, and everybody else in my family used to think it was funny that I was due on Halloween. So obviously now we're going into quite a dark brown here. I've still mixed it with the orange though. I don't want a different colour entirely. I want to make sure that the colours carry through to, from the lightest to the darkest. The little bit of a gap I've left underneath the bird as well is just that I know that's where there's going to be a branch, so I'm just leaving little markers in for me. Because what I will do later on is I will cut the bird out of the original drawing and be able to lay it back over. So if you look here, all I'm doing is I'm going from a bright orange, and I'm just gradually taking out till it gets darker and darker, and it's mainly going to be quite dark along the bottom and just up the sides here, and on the other side obviously. So we're going to just have a little bit of dark up here. Really what I'm aiming to do is to kind of focus the attention ultimately that's going to be on the bird. So that's why I'm darkening it down where I am. But there will be other bits and pieces here, as you may have seen on the beginning introduction little video. So it's not going to be completely dark here. And if you look, that's a slightly lighter brown I'm putting over the dark one. The one I've got, I don't know what it's called, but it has a bit of a mixture of browns in it, but they're not the reddy orange browns, they're more the dull browns. So if you've got some browns, you can always mix them together just so you get a bit of texture and contrast. That's really why I'm putting it over the darkest colour, because it was a bit too flat. So here we are with my template again. I'm going in straight in with a bright yellow, because although I'm going to have the sun in it, I don't want the sun to be the dominant thing, but I do need it to be brighter. So we're going to put this yellow in and do my best to make a circle. I can't even make circles with templates, so you know, I don't know what that says about me. And then I'm going to go over it with some even brighter yellow, and then I will also add a touch of the yellow mixed with white. So I'm really, again, I'm doing the same thing as I did with the brown. I'm just aiming to not have a flat colour. So it's really three colours of yellow. I've got a base colour, then I've got a brighter yellow, and then this is the yellow mixed with the white. And because this is carded wool, I will felt it down really well as well, because otherwise if you don't felt it thoroughly, especially for pictures, you'll end up with kind of a fluffy, fuzzy surface. So although it's looking a bit fuzzy and fluffy now, in a minute I lift it off my grey mat here and I will go to my other mat and felt it down really well with my multi-tool. There you go, can you see it's not fluffy now? Now all I've done here was I pinned the bird back where I wanted it, and then I've just marked in with some dark brown, like I'm showing you, just where I want my branches. And obviously I need to take the branch so that he's sitting on it. So that's basically what I did. I cut the bird out, laid it down, worked out where to have my branches, then obviously marked them in, and now I'm just going to take my dark brown. It's just a basic dark brown because I'm going to put other colours onto it, and then I will fill in my branch all the way up. And then having filled it in, I want to pop in some branches as well. So I'm just double checking here that the bird is in the right place. And as you can see, just under his tail there's a little bit of area where it needs a little bit more yellow or yellowy brown, which I will go and deal with in a minute. So now I'm just building branches. So at this point I'm just using the same basic colour I've built the branches in so far, and then you just need to pop in whatever little extra branches and twigs coming off it that you'd like. But make sure you bend them and twist them and things so they're not going in straight lines or anything. You obviously don't have to do them the way I'm doing, where I put wool down and then split it. You can literally make each little individual twig and things themselves if you want to. It's just a habit I have of plonking a lot of wool down and then just splitting it apart. And if you look, this is nice because this branch here is made almost of the same colour that that corner is done in. And so these branches will start to disappear into that area, which I actually liked that a lot, the way they just kind of vanished. And I had left the bird there so that I didn't put branches where the bird was going to be. It was so that I could work around it, but obviously I don't need the bird there now. I know where the branches are going to be. And what I did as well was I started to go in with some black, because I want this whole thing to be really dark, so it's fine. And I went in with some black and just filled in some bits which would be shady with the black as well. So all this here and in this corner, that's going to be really dark. But you'll see as I go along how I go from the dark to lighter bits. And it was important to me not to do this as a silhouette, because the way how close the bird is to me, you would see bits of it, you would see its colours and things. So that's why on this picture, I haven't done it as a silhouette, and nor have I done the branches just as silhouettes. They do have colour on them, but not too much, because I really want it to be like that gothic-y dark look. So you just need to pop in as many branches as you'd like, really. And at this point I'm going to add a little bit of colour and texture and that to the actual branches that the bird's going to sit on. But again, if you look at this colour, this is not bright. It's just that dull brown that I've got with a little bit of lighter colour in it. But it's what I'm saying is, it's not got any yellows and that kind of colour in it at the moment. I'm just literally trying to add texture to the branch. And if you look there, I've added a touch of green, but you wouldn't notice it too much. I've mixed it all in, just a hint of green, so that I break up some of the texture brown, but not with anything bright. And then as I go up the branch, which will catch more light, eventually we will add a little bit of orange and yellow. So where it catches the light, I'm going to make it just that bit brighter. And all the time I'm keeping it nice and thin when I lay it down. But what I think works as well is when you look at it now, you've got that brown at the bottom, and you could be looking down onto the tops of trees or bushes and things where you're not seeing the individual leaves or twigs or anything. So I think it gives a nice effect in the background so that you feel like there's stuff there. It's just that this particular raven's sitting quite high up in a tree. So you can see I'm adding a little bits of more yellowy colour now. Just be sparing with the yellow, you don't want it too much. Now I'm back to doing round the bird. So what I've done is obviously I've put the bird back down where I want it, and I'm using black to draw around the cutout that I've done. So I'm going to go all the way around it. I'm not worried about his legs and things, marking that in, but I just want to make sure I've marked the body in. And I found a brilliant colour to mix with the black, which I'm obviously going to do the bird in black, but this colour is called Petrol, and it's from World of Wool, and it's the most amazing colour for giving highlights on black wool. You know, for like the sheen on birds' wings and things like that. It was astonishing the way it worked. So I highly recommend if you're going to do lots of birds with black feathers and things, getting hold of this colour called Petrol, because it worked. You'll see it, but it worked so well. It made it look like it was highlighted, and I was really impressed with it. I use it for other things like the sea and things like that, so it's not just for the feathers and things. I use it for all sorts of stuff, but it was absolutely perfect colour for this. You'll have to let me know, watch it through and let me know in the comments whether you agree with me that it was a really good colour. So the first thing I'm doing here is I'm going to mark in the wing, because I didn't want to lose the shape of the wing, so that's all I'm doing first, is just filling in the wing. And then this colour I've got here that I'm using now, this is the Petrol. It's kind of a, I don't know what you call it, lavender? I don't really know. But it's kind of a lavendery blue, and it was really good. At this moment I'm just using it so that I mark out the shape of the wing, so that when I fill in the rest of the bird in the black, I don't lose my wing shape. But I think I used some of this on the puffin I did as well, in the black feathers for that one. So yeah, really impressed with the colour. I do have a bag of it, but I'm going to get another bag, because if they decide they're not going to make it anymore, I definitely want to make sure I've got some. And then what I did, because as you can see I've obviously filled it in, marked off where the legs were and the basic toes, and then I mixed the black with this Petrol, so it's like an even 50-50 mix. And I've pulled it into short strands, and that I'm going to build the body part with this. When I looked at the raven, it almost looks like fur. The feathers look like fur, they're small and that. So this is why I've put it on as if I were putting fur onto an animal. But it looks like feathers. It's weird. But as you can see, I cut it into short strands, pulled it so that there were bits hanging, long bits. When you pull it, you've got like wispy ends. So I just tied the wispy ends, and then I've put it on like it's fur. I haven't, if you see my other videos, I haven't put it down like I do my grass and then fold it over. I've only done one layer, but you'll see what I mean. But it ends up looking like those fine feathers that you get on the bird's chest. And what I also have done here is I've made sure that they fluff off a little bit from the actual shape of the bird, so that the feathers aren't laying neatly. There's little bits sticking out. And if you do it in short parts, don't do it really long pieces, it does look like the feathers. And because mixing it with the black gives you that light and dark shading on the feathers as well, which worked really well. So now here I'm pulling long bits of this petrol and I'm running it up the tail feathers, because each tail feather was catching some of the light, and a raven's almost got iridescent, to me it's almost like iridescent feathers. So I'm marking out the feathers with this petrol, only in bits, as you'll see, and then if necessary I'm going in afterwards and adding a little bit of extra black between each feather to give you that extra depth. So if you're unsure about how the feathers go on a raven, I would get yourself a picture, because the wings are quite interesting. They have like, I think it's 3 layers of feathers for the wing. So I'm basically building up each layer, and then I'm actually going back in with some black to put the shading under each layer at the ends of the wings, the end of each set of feathers. So if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to give me a like. It does help very much, helps my channel grow and all that stuff, and I would really appreciate it. So if you could take a second, pretty please, and just go hit the like for me, if you're enjoying it, obviously. That would be lovely, thank you. So now I'm building up the next row of feathers here. So do you agree with me about the petrol colour? I think it really does make the bird's feathers look like they've got that kind of sheen on them. While I'm thinking about it, I'll let you know, in case you don't, that I now have a Patreon if you'd like to have a look at that at all. There's all sorts of bits on there. I'm doing, obviously, Halloween. There's an exclusive Halloween picture on there, and I'm doing a tree series. So last month I showed how to make an oak tree, and this month I'm doing another tree as well that's chosen by people who voted on the poll on Patreon. But there's some other bits, it's going to be behind the scenes, and there's early access to another Halloween video as well, things like that. So if you're interested, do pop over and have a nose. You'd be very welcome. So now the top part of this bird's wing is back to like the fine feathers again. So this is why I've gone back to doing the same thing I did on his tummy and things and down his chest. So we've gone back to pulling that fine carded wool mixed with some of that petrol again, and we're laying that over there now. This is only the second bird that I've ever actually made, and I'm surprised. I actually quite enjoyed it. I wasn't sure when I first started. I did the puffin and I was quite pleased with that, and then I thought, well, I'll be brave and I'll have a go at this raven, and I've actually quite enjoyed doing it. So there may well be more birds in the future, not too often, but it didn't put me off. Didn't completely scare me away, so we may do some more birds later on. So if you have a bird that you fancy having a go at, or you'd like me to have a go at, I'm up for a challenge, so let me know in the comments below. I can't promise how quickly I'll do it, but the puffin was a request, so I'm happy to take requests and see what I can come up with. So I'm adding a black outline here just so I define where the wing is, because it would have a little bit of shadow under it and things like that. I'm just running a bit of that colour now down onto the bird's legs and over his little toes and things, because I want those to just catch a little bit of light. Just want you to be able to see that the bird's feet are there, really. I'm not doing too much to them. And to be honest, if you were having a bit of a problem with his little toes and things, you could always add a bit of moss to the tree just there, and then it would hide a bit of his toes, so you could get away with that. So if you look at the head, I've done the same thing. All I've done is lay some of that fine feathery thing over his head, so it sweeps back from his beak over the top of his head and then down his cheeks. So that's all I've done there, just to add that little bit of feathering. And now I'm just putting a bit of shading just under his legs there, because it looked like both legs were on the same side, so I needed to put a little bit of shading, so I pushed the back leg backwards a bit. Now I've cut the wing out because obviously I used that earlier as a template, and now I've cut his eye out because I want to make sure I get his eye in the right place. So I'll pin that down and then I will just mark his eye in. I mark it in to start with black because when I looked at the raven's eye, the area where the eye is, it's quite dark. It was black there, and it goes into a little like fine black streak behind his eye. So I'll put the black in first and mark out the shade in that area, and then I will go back in a minute with some orange and that, and lighten it up and start to build his actual eye. Because it's very dark around the edges of his beak, the part of his beak that joins his head, and it was dark around his eye. So this is what I've gone in, and I hadn't quite filled in the beak properly. This is what I've gone back and I've just added a bit more black there. And this again is the petrol colour. I put the petrol on first, and then I decided it needed to be a slightly brighter, so I actually went in with a light blue mixed with a bit of the petrol colour and did an extra streak. You'll see that in a minute. So I've used this petrol colour thinly over the front of his beak and almost up to where it joins his head, but not quite, as I say. And then I will go back and I will put this light blue mixed with the petrol colour. There we go, because it needed a bit more oomph. And you see it's just got that little bit more. And now I've put that back over because I want to add in an orange for the base colour of his eye. Which might seem odd because you might be thinking, well, you just put black in there, but I put black there so I knew initially where the eye was, and then I spread that black out, so I made it look like a hollow, and then I've gone back in with that brown, well, it's orange really, and then I've gone in with the lighter orange. These are the two oranges I've used in the sky, it doesn't matter. And then, because the lighter bit is just around the outer edge, just so it has a little glint to it, and then I will go back in and I will put the black pupil in. There we go. And then I add just a touch of white. I did go back in after I'd finished the whole picture and make the black pupil of his eye just that little bit bigger, because I kept looking at it thinking that's not quite big enough. And now I'm just doing a thin line down his beak. So this has been a really nice picture. I really liked this picture, and I think it was helped because of the petrol colour wool that I had. It just lifted the feathers so much. I was actually quite thrilled at the look of it, because you expect it to be black and flat, and it lifted it right up. So don't forget, if you've enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe if you haven't. There's lots of pictures coming up for Halloween, and let's just watch the bird fly away, and I will see you either on a video that might be coming up on screen next or in the next video. And thank you very much for watching. We'll just wave the bird bye bye. See ya.